I want to say hello to everyone who's joining us, whether you're here in our live session or you're watching later on our YouTube channel. But we're so glad to have you with us today as we explore this amazing journey that we share. Today, we're really happy to welcome Mindahi Bastida. He's an author and Otomi-Toltec spiritual leader, also director of the Original Nations program of the Fountain, and previously director of the Original Caretaker program at the Center for Earth Ethics in New York City. Mindahi is also a consultant with UNESCO and was recently attending the United Nations Climate Change Summit in Dubai. And so today he's going to help us explore who are our real ancestors. When we use that word, we think of a generation or so back, our grandfathers, grandmothers, great-grandmothers, but he's pointing out that our ancestors go far further back than that, for not only centuries, even millennia. And that consciousness is still with us today, interwoven through time and space, and how we can participate in that ongoing legacy. So his work is very exciting, and he's going to lead us through a discussion on that. So Mindahi, welcome. We are honored to have you with us as our guest and look forward to our time together today. So I will also want to, before we crank up, welcome back Patricia Pierce. As you know, she's our regular interviewer. She's a pastor, spiritual teacher, and host of the We Awakening podcast. And also, lastly, as I mentioned, I want to welcome each of you. So it's a joy to have you here. Now, if you're new to the center, be sure and check out our website. It's simply contemporarymysticism.org, where you'll find hundreds of resources, past speakers, videos, groups in which you may participate. So those are all good resources. The main thing, remember that we're here to be a partner with you in your journey. So if you feel that what we're doing is important, we invite you to get involved, volunteer, join, support, do whatever you feel called to do to help us continue this work. And remember, after Patricia and Mindahi have a time to dialogue and interview, we'll open it up for a Q&A session. And some of you who have questions can come on the screen and talk directly with Mindahi and ask a question and have him respond. So as we go through our time together, if you think of something that you would like to ask, or a topic or a question, jot it down so that when we come to the Q&A time, you'll be ready to ask a question. So now, without further ado, Patricia and Mindahi, will turn it over to you, and I will be back in just a bit for our Q&A.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you, Mindahi, for being with us today. And before we begin our dialogue, would you please lead us in a time of invocation?
Izenwa tikwada izenwa tiku. Dikmewa. Yoho, you. Izenwati makata makame. Izenwati danshime hoi. Tioka makihmu. Invoking the Great Spirit and the four sacred elements of life. Invoking the feather serpent, Mashikenya, Quetzalcoatl. Invoking the day and the night and in between, mystery. Invoking all the spiritual forces of the universe, and invoking the spirit of Mother Earth and Father Sky. Today we have A beautiful day, a beautiful afternoon, a beautiful night. In the world, in this beautiful world that we call Mother Earth, we came here for a purpose. We came here not as individuals, but as a community. And that community is how we can survive. But always acknowledging that we are blessed with the 4 sacred elements of life, the sacred waters as a sacred element, the sacred winds, a sacred element, the sacred earths, a sacred element, and the sacred fire. As in the origins, as in the folding creation of the universe and dimensions. So that's why we are the reflection of those sacred elements of life. And we are grateful in this time and space to witness this common experience. Because no one can be alone. We are seeds. We are seeds in between the past and the future. And that's how we can survive. That's how we can come together. We remember in this unification process of life. Thank you, brothers and sisters, for being today in this beautiful time and space and this beautiful conversation and interview. We give great thanks to the Great Spirit for allowing us to be here together, for listening, and mostly for acting together, for feeling together, for coming together. Kamadi, Makihum Kamadi Makata, Digmawa. Thank you, Great Spirit. Thank you, Mother Earth and Father Sky. Hey, hey, hey. Thank you.
Thank you, Mindahi. I would like to pick up on something that you just said in your invocation, which is that we cannot be alone. And I think that, well, I know that in Western culture, we have this, the Western worldview has been built around this idea of being separate and being alone. And even the idea of ancestors, which you have written about, in our common understanding, ancestors refers to our parents, our grandparents, our great-great-grandparents. But in your book, Ancestors, you talk about how really everything is our ancestor. The stars are our ancestors. The oceans are our ancestors. So I would just love to hear you talk about your understanding of what ancestor is. And you've also mentioned how we, and this is fascinating to me, that future generations are also our ancestors. So if you could just sort of open up our own understanding of that, that would be wonderful.
Yes, thank you. This concept or this category of ancestors goes beyond the rational mind and mostly beyond the Western mindset. Because when we talk about ancestors around the families or in the school, or when we learn about ancestors, we are talking about lineages, family lineages. But actually, we are the synthesis. We are the synthesis of the four sacred elements. We are the synthesis of what is happening in the universe. And we, as another species, also hold those sacred elements, the plants, the animals, the fungi, the minerals. Some, we have more presence of certain elements of life. And ancestors is not just the past, it's the present. And it's what is unfolding, it's being delivered. So we are the seeds. But I like to touch about ancestors in a broader way. Before we were here as humans, we already existed in the divine mind, in the divine spirit. Before there were the volcanoes, the rivers, the deserts, the snows, the seas, and even other ancestors that have gone to other dimensions. So this human family, this human species, is just another species. But we couldn't exist without other species. We couldn't exist without the rivers, without the waters. We couldn't exist without the sun and other sacred elements. Let me just touch about the sun as a sacred energy, sacred fire. We call in our traditions, in our ancestral wisdom, it's the father. It's a father because it provides the energy that we need. I'm not talking just about humans. I'm talking about the concept of life in this planet. Without Father Sun, we wouldn't be here. Without the energy of the sun, we couldn't be here in this beautiful planet, this beautiful Mother Earth. And that's why he's our father. Even some of the produce of this mix of what we call biodiversity, others call the wild, and the presence of humans and the presence of other animals that also, because of their presence, life can be lively as we know it. There are many social beings in this world. Humans, we are just another social beings. But let's talk, for example, about a produce of this encounter. The land races of the corn in ancestral time was called Teocintle because it's related to God, the presence of God or the spirit in a plant, in a grass. And this relationship are around the years, hundreds, maybe thousands of years. This plant communicated with the humans, and the humans communicated with this plant. With this grass, then it was born what we call the corn. And we say, at least in Mesoamerica, in central Mexico, we are the sons of the corn. Because this biocultural produce is the intense and deep relationship with a being, or with two beings, humans and this land race. After some years, some races were developed, and now we have many species of many varieties of corn in the world. And from the anthropocentric point of view, we say we domesticated the corn. That's true, but it's not the whole truth, because it was the other way around too. The corn or the landrace domesticated us, and that's why the civilization was possible. The flourishing of humans in this part of the world was possible. The same happened with the rice. The same happened with potatoes. The same happened with the wheat. So those kind of sacred relationships gave birth to the fests, to the fiestas, to honor, to the rituals, to honor those beings. But many people forgot. I remember my grandfather used to say around 6 p.m., 7 p.m., don't touch the corn anymore, because the corn is going to go to sleep. So we understood that all beings, and even those who are not in the natural sciences, they are alive and they got spirit. So that's why if we are born around the volcanoes, that's why we say those are our spiritual authorities. Those are our ancestors. The lakes, the rivers, the sky, the seas, we are them, and we are born in certain areas. Is who we are. And that's why we are born in certain, that there is a purpose for that. It's not just casual. There is a purpose. Sometimes we don't understand. We don't remember. But we have the chance to connect or reconnect with our ancestors. So that's why this solar system is the family of Mother Earth. And that's why we call Mother Earth, because it's a mother. She was before us. And it's our mother because we cannot live in this planet without her spirit. She nurtured us, and she takes care about us, and we need to be in reciprocity to take care about our ancestors. And some ancestors are in the spiritual world, and we can call them, recall them. But other ancestors are still here with us in this material world. And they are very ancient, thousands, millions of years. We don't even know, because there are theories about when the Earth or the solar system was created. Those are your theories. But what we know is that life is unfolding. And we as human beings, we are the last second of those millions of years. And it's a beautiful second, all of these thousands of years, because we can witness the intelligence of the universe, the intelligence of the spirit, and the intelligence of the matter. So we need to reconnect to that sacred intelligence, the sacred intelligence of reciprocity. That's what our ancestors are telling us. Don't forget us. We can guide you. We are here for you. But we need also to acknowledge them, at least remembering them in rituals, in ceremonies. Ceremony is always important, not just at the rite of passage, but they are important because it's a remembering, it's a reminding way of being and thinking and acting and doing and feeling in this world. So no human being can be alone. Even those who go to the cave, they are not alone. They are with the cave, with the ancestors. So that's the beauty of life. And the beauty of life is not just the matter. The beauty of life is the spirit, is the mind, is the thinking. We exist in those dimensions as well. If we close our eyes, we can also connect or reconnect. If we think in that way, and we can ignite that energy, we can reconnect with our ancestors. We can also listen how to behave, how to interact in a sacred way, or even in a regular basis. But we need to understand that we are not alone. We are not alone, and we have been never alone. There are clusters of this sacred relationship, this spiral of flourishing diversity.
Thank you, Mindahi. I feel like I have received a transmission from you. Just the purity of your expression and how I feel it. This is your experience and it's just being imparted. It's like I'm receiving it very deeply, and I want to thank you. And what you described about, from an anthropocentric point of view, we believe that we domesticated the corn, but it's the other way around as well. So that is this relationship of reciprocity. The corn feeds the human, and the human plants the corn and tends the corn. Mm-hmm. So the human is serving the corn, mm-hmm. just as the corn is serving the human. And so it's this beautiful dance of reciprocity and mutuality. Mm-hmm. And that, that's such, it's such a refreshing way to see it, because, you've spent enough time with the Western mind to know that that's just not the way the dominant worldview sees things. And when you say, Mindahi, that there's a purpose in where we are born, and a lot of us are the descendants of colonialists, settlers. We do not inhabit our ancestral lands. And just speaking for myself, that creates a feeling of displacement, I would say. And for myself, I was born in Denver, Colorado, and now I live in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So even there, So what would you say to people such as myself who I don't live on my ancestors' lands, and I don't even live in the area where I was born? How can we regenerate that deep connection with the land and with the relationships of all beings where we live?
There are several things I want to say, and several layers of understanding. First of all, I like to acknowledge that the displacement of human beings from one place to another, there is also a purpose. But of course, we need to understand colonialism as something that has been pushing for domination and dominion. So that's one thing that I like to touch around that. But it's not just that story. That's not the whole explanation about colonization. We understand that if somebody was born in another place, like that's your case, or other cases, maybe it was the fruit of colonization. But you have the chance to connect, because there is a purpose for that, to connect with the mountains, with the rivers. Of course, in Colorado, ancestral lands, there were species, there were people before. And we need to honor and acknowledge them, first of all. You know, the land and mindscapes. And if you were born in that area, there's a purpose for that. First of all, the most basic thing is to acknowledge where you are, where were you born? What is the reason? So that's very important. And secondly, also do research about the lineage family. Not because you were born in that area, you forget about your ancestors, humans. So that's why some people is beginning to search for this blood connection. Sometimes some in Europe, some are from Asia, from Africa, in this continent of the Americas. But it's the other way around too. Because we're in cycles. We're in cycles. So wherever you are, responsibilities follows you. It's not that you just go and now you're living in another state, in Philadelphia. There are also beings, and we have the obligation to do research about the peoples, the species, the environment, the ecology around that area, but most of all, sacred sites, sacred spaces.
I wanted to talk to you about that because you have traveled to many sacred sites, and you lead sacred ceremonies. And in fact, just a couple of weeks ago, we were talking. You were in a car in Peru, and you were headed to a sacred site in the mountains in Peru. So, talk to us about sacred sites, and what is the significance of them? What is the importance of them? And what makes sacred sites sacred? and the importance of protecting them, because you've also consulted with UNESCO around sacred sites. So talk to us about that.
Yes, talking about sacred sites is highly important because those are the energetic points, energetic places of this being, of this planet. And it's where this energy is being flowing. Those are like the acupuncture places of this planet. And they need to be not just protected, but they need to be acknowledged through ceremony, through rituals, through payments, through offerings. Because in those places dwells these entities, these spirits, these deities, that they are in connection with the spiritual world and this material world. And we need to reciprocate with them. And in many places, because of, we were talking about colonization, we forgot about, or it was forbidden to carry out ceremonies, or new religion mindsets were imposed, more anthropocentric, let's say. So the original rituals, the original ceremonies were forbidden, and sometimes they were carried out in a hidden way. But in some places, that's why these entities are not happy, because they have been doing the work and nobody make case. That's the reason in some places things happen in balance. I have so many examples to say, but I must say that in connection with the sacred sites, there are, first of all, they are the most beautiful places and the most sacred places in this planet. And they hold special minerals. And that's why this special energy is being flowing, being created. But there are spirits and sacred entities that, or guardians, even material guardians, that are taking care about those sacred places. And that's why they are like antennas that they connect with other sacred places. So life is possible. And those rituals and those ceremonies are so important because we can bring balance. We can bring this energy so life can continue. But as you know, many sacred places are in danger. Many sacred places have been forgotten. So we need to recover that connection. And we need to protect them. And now, in these past 2-3 decades, there is a waking up, let's say. There is a more awareness about this task as humans we have to carry out. And I can say that, for example, in some sacred sites, the presence of the butterflies, the presence of the eagles, the presence of some sacred animals and plants are always present. Always. And when you enter, always you have to ask permission. Not just in the sacred site, but anywhere you go. Even if you go to your place or to your apartment or to your house, because sometimes we we just think about this house as a thing. It's not a thing. If you put energy, if you have this love from where you are living with, then you have this sacred relationship. If you can do that for your house, for your plants, for your animals, actually they are not ours. We are in sacred relationship. Then when you go to a sacred site, it's even more. Wherever you go, you ask permission. Because when you enter a new place, or you go back again, there is this important acknowledgement of the beings that dwells over there. And we know for sure that all that we see around is energy. And we have that sacred connection, then we have the obligation to treat life as sacred. Then we are not going to trash or to commodify everything. Because then we think that this is the way of being and acting and doing and also feeling, because that's the happiness that is produced. That's why some people, they go in pilgrimage, they go to visit these sacred sites without knowing sometimes, but they feel something different. And in the equinoxes and the solstices, especially in the 4 times in the year around the world, there are special ceremonies. And some people are going back to those sacred sites. And they say, oh, we are charging again ourselves of this energy. But this is at least the most basic thing. It should be every day is a ceremony. Every day is sacred. It's not just that place that is more important, but also in the place where you live. The place where you live also can produce that happiness for you, because you have this relationship that you care. You give care. Not just take care, but give care. That's the other way around as well. Because when you take care, it's because an obligation that comes most of the time from outside. But when you give, it's from inside out. So that's the sacred relationship that we have with this planet and with the universe. And that's why our ancestors always took into consideration the movement of the stars, the movement of Venus, like Cancer, the great star, the cycles, and also the moon and the sun. That's why we have different kinds of, or complementary calendars, because we live in the cycles of life. The time is not linear. The time is cyclical as the seasons. And that's a sacred connection with the sacred sites as well, because some sacred sites are powerful to call the rains, others to call the winds, or the rainy season, to open the doors for the rain to come, or to close, or to, we have these beautiful, majestuous fiestas for the Days of the Dead in Mexico and many other parts of the world. But in Mexico, we have kept that as sacred. We make offerings. We connect with the ancestors in that way. We honor the past and we honor the future. And we live in between. We cannot live in the past. We cannot live in the future. We live in between, and that's the mystery. But we can recall the past, so we can act in such a way that we don't lose the purpose as human beings in this world. As just we are just another species. It's not that everything is in service for us. We are in service for other beings, as you were saying when I was talking about the corn. We are in service to those other beings. Because this being cannot be possible without the presence, because it could go back to the land race and to become again a grass. That's the reason we have this sacred relationship. Not just with that, with many other biocultural beings. And that's very beautiful as well, because the diversity is really the richness. When we don't have that, and we reduce diversity to monocultures or to mono, just to have few access to some plants or animals, that's very sad. That's very sad. So diversity is happiness. Diversity is the richness of the matter and the spirit in this world. So that's why we should reconnect and recover our origins. And that's important because in your case and in other cases, to reconnect with your ancestors in another part of the world, you can recall them. They can guide you. So you can behave where you are living now. You can honor that land. You can honor that territory. That's the purpose of life. And it's not just to talk about colonialism as a poison, but as a way of liberation, as a way of reconnection, as a way of doing the right things, and as a way of behavior that we can give back when we have to give back and be in service. And so we can also receive in a beautiful way. And when we receive, also we nurture life. That's the beauty of all of that we are talking about.
When you say we receive, by receiving we nurture life. And Mindahi, when you were talking about the sacred ceremonies and the sacred sites, what I heard you saying is, and maybe I suppose every species, every life form has its unique role in the family of life. And as you're talking about performing sacred ceremony in the sacred sites, that the beings, the entities, the spirits that are working on our behalf constantly, that our own appreciation and gratitude and honoring and respecting and making offerings is the energy that enables this flow to continue. Yeah.
Let's say it's the sacred fuel.
Yes, the sacred fuel. And to know that we have that capacity, that we have that gift to offer, the offer of our own awareness and our own sense of union and oneness and appreciation, that's an invaluable gift. And I think we may not fully appreciate just the power of our own gratitude and our own appreciation and honoring that's an invaluable part of the equation of the life system that we take part in. And I wanted to also talk to you about, you've talked a lot about, and this was something when I first heard you talk about this, it was a real eye-opener for me. When you talked about biocultural diversity, because I think for most of us, we are aware of biodiversity and the importance of biodiversity. And you talk about biocultural diversity. And when I heard you first mention that, it's like, oh, wow. Our human cultures are also part of the expression of life, part of Mother Earth's expression, taking shape in many languages and many cultural forms. So can you just talk more about how you see the importance of protecting biocultural diversity?
Yes. We have this beautiful concept or category, biocultural memory, biocultural diversity. Let's say biocultural mindset, because the original nations and peoples, from the origins, we don't put apart biodiversity and culture. They are together. They come together, at least from the human perspective, from the human presence in this world. Because every culture is flourishing around a bioregion. And the expression of these cultures is even in the production of food, in the production of language, in the production of wisdom, even thoughts. So biodiversity and cultures come together always. So that's why biocultural heritage is something that we cannot debate. And maybe biodiversity can exist by itself, like without our presence as human beings. But we cannot be in this world without culture as human beings. And all the culture, all the expressions of culture, or the cultures in this world, are related to the landscapes and to the ecosystems where we live in. Even the way of speaking, or the way of connecting each other, or how we give, how we receive. So biocultural diversity is based in this beautiful three dimension. Is based in the number of languages, or the languages spoken in a region. Also in the number of species, animals, plants, minerals, fungi. And in between, the agroecosystems, how we produce as humans with other beings, how we produce what we eat, what we smell, what we see as the beautiful production of roses or flowers, Also, they are very important for us, because when we live in a place where a certain type of flowers are growing, and we have that sacred relationship with those flowers. And that flower is representative of the region. It's also biocultural heritage. Because it's heritage because it's passed from one generation to another one, to another one, to another one. And sometimes I must say that this is not just sacred, but secret knowledge. Some individuals or some families are keeping that, so they pass this to the next generation. And that's really important because some members of the human family, they have the great responsibility to keep those secrets, so that biocultural heritage is passed to the next generations. Let's talk just about a recipe, let's say a beverage recipe, or a recipe of a food, a meal, or a recipe of how to make the clay pots in certain way that just in that region is produced. And that's the biocultural heritage that we are talking about. But in this case, it's not just there. They are the keepers, the wisdom keepers. But it's the human family expression. It's the human family expression, but we need to acknowledge where it comes from. We need to honor the place, and we need to give respect, to present respect. And that's how it was in this world, at least until 13,000 years ago. We had the peak of biocultural expression at that time, where all the different nations in that time, there were peoples, they were living in harmony with nature, with the sky. But some people began to go away from that sacred relationship, and some began to take over instead of taking care. And that's why we have conflict. And that's why we have, as human beings, so many borders. Not just those kind of borders that delimit the space or the material space in the maps or even with walls, but borders in our minds. Because all of this is created in the mind, that instead of coming together, there is this disconnection. And when there is disconnection between the human family, there is disconnection with nature. There is disconnection with the spirit. One touches the other one. So that's why the colonization is not just new, the 500 years ago, no. It goes to the 13,000 years and a little bit beyond. At that time, we had more languages than we have today. We have now 7,500 languages, and most of them are in danger. The same is happening with the species of plants and animals. We are losing every day species, and not just animals and plants, but also minerals, because of the over extraction of their of the minerals, of the rare earths. If we are lacking those, we cannot live in harmony. So that's why it's so important to talk about these issues. Because we need to remember that it's possible to live with this planet, not from this planet.
Mhm.
It's like in any family. Some sons and daughters, they live with the family, and some they live from. And that's the same with societies, the same with peoples. You see? So how we can come back and remember who we are. So the number of languages, the number of species, and the number of these agroecosystems are being reduced. And when they are being reduced more and more and more, we are having this, not just this climate crisis, the loss of biodiversity, but also the spiritual crisis. So there is a disconnection. But we need to remember, we need to reconnect to the source. And for that, we need the support of our ancestors. We need the support of those ancestors, those who teach us how to live in harmony, in cycles, like the movement of the sun, the moon, the Venus, and other stars, even with this Mother Earth, how it is moving. And we need to go along with those cycles. No faster, not slower. Because sometimes we want to produce more and more and more. For what? For what? Or we need to have, or some people think, oh, I'm going to succeed. I'm going to have more and more and more. For what? We are just here as human beings for a while. Your children, maybe you're going to inherit, but sometimes they forget and they spend all of that in a bad way. So we need to remember why we are here. And that's why we need guidance. And if we connect with our ancestors, we can ask in meditation or in dream time or in other ways as you wish. Just connect. For the beginning, just begin to do research. Where your lineage come from? What is your responsibility in this world? And then expand to the region, to the continent, to the planet, and beyond that. Because there are beings in this world, like the Kogis in Sierra Nevada, Santa Marta. Of course, they give care to this planet or to the certain volcanoes or to the rivers, but there are some beings that they are in connection with other planets. It's incredible, but we know it, and it's possible because the mind of let's say the mastermind, there should be another word for that, is universal, it's interdimensional. We have to expand our capacities of connection, and it is possible. We need to open our hearts so the mind can also open, so our spirits can be strong. And together we are stronger. If you help and support others, they are going to support you. Together, we can do it. That's the unification process that we are talking about. Bringing together responsibilities so life can flourish again and again.
I'd like to invite just a moment for all of us to take that into our hearts. Mindahi, you have, I can't thank you enough for all that you have shared. And I also want to honor your present situation with your mother having recently left her embodied existence. And I just am very grateful to you for even, in the face of that, being willing to be with us. And I know that she is present here in our gathering. And I give thanks to her as one of your many limitless numbers of ancestors. But I really do want to honor her. And I honor you for the wisdom that you embody and that you've shared with us. So thank you, Mindahi. Thank you.
Thank you so much, dear Patricia, and all the team, and all the people in this movement.
So I would like to invite Joe to come back on, and there will be a time for anyone who has a question that they would like to bring to do that. And I'm going to turn my video off. I will be listening, but I'm going to disappear for now.
Thank you, Mindahi and Patricia, for that beautiful and enlightening conversation. We want to save a little time for those who are attending to be able to ask a question. Now, to do that, you need to click the button on your Zoom that says raise your hand. And if you do that, then we'll know that you have a question and be able to bring you on and let you ask a question. So we encourage those who might have questions to click raise your hand, and we will bring you on. So it looks like we have a question from David. So David, we would ask that you click the button that says join as panelist and to start your video, and we will bring you on and have you ask a question of Mindahi. Go ahead.
Mindahi, wonderful talk. Oh my, that was really, really great. Yeah, I just wonder when it comes to the practical specifics of getting advice from the universe. I mean, I've often thought that maybe the animals which eat us, like the white sharks and the grizzly bears and the Nile crocodiles, we don't want to listen to them. They have something to tell us, but where do we go for, specifically, if we want to get insight into the importance of ceremony? What specific creatures or what specific there is a mechanics to learning how we're going to get greater understanding of what we should all do. So you've talked about like everything. Can you maybe be more specific? And so, like, I'm in North America, northeastern North America, and I go out to the natural world, and there it is. What do I listen to if I'm in, from New Hampshire in the White Mountains, or I'm here in Philadelphia? Like, there's a mechanics to learning. Well, what specifically should I pay attention to?
Great question. Thanks, David.
Yes. In every region or bioregion in the world, we have some specific sacred animals, specific sacred mountains, rivers, or creeks. So, as we have understood in the past, there are sacred animals that are related to that environment, or sacred plants. When we talk about lineages, we also talk about clans in some societies. And when we are in the city, they don't disappear. Or we are in the mountain, they don't disappear. We need the opportunity to reconnect. And how we can reconnect with them? First of all, doing research about what are the sacred animals in the region? What are the sacred mountains in the region, sacred sites, let's say? Sometimes are some plants. But let me tell you my experience when I was living among the Shuswap in British Columbia. And even when I was in Vancouver and other cities, I have been also in Ottawa and even in New York.
Mhm.
Responsibilities follows us. And it's for us the duty to reconnect with those beings wherever you are. I remember when we were there in the Shuswap territory, there are the Bear Clan, the Deer Clan, the Eagle Clan, and so on and so forth. So I was asking them, why are you the Bear Clan? There's a long tradition, but they are related to that animal as a sacred animal because they learn from that animal how to go and pick up the fruits, the berries, let's say. So all that interrelationship, and they protect that animal. They don't kill those animals because they represent themselves. It's like the connection with the animal, but also with what the animal eats, how the animal moves. And there are even dances around those animals or expression of some deities and entities. So in many occasions, I saw the eagle clans and how they were performing their rituals and their dances. And they were the visionaries. But how you can reconnect with, let's say, your clan? You have to go deep into your lineages and what were the ancestral animals or plants or minerals that were related to your family, progeny. I always recommend to go in meditation, deep meditation, or during the dream time. And there's in between, in meditation and before you go to sleep, that in between, you can pause that thinking or that thought. And there's always a connection. There is always something that comes to you. There are many ways, many ways. Sometimes you can go around the fire just to be with the fire. The fire is very sacred. When you have important things to carry out, consult or be around the fire. At least a candle around you and other people. I was just thinking the other day, when there is a candle, even at the restaurants, you see, you feel another kind of connection. That is the connection that we need with the region that we are living in, or in the neighborhood. That's the kind of connection that we need. But we need to open our minds, our spirits and hearts. We need to open to that.
Thank you. That's wonderful, helpful information. I noticed we had a question from Judith. Judith, if you would, click the join us panelist button and turn on your video, and we'd like to have you ask your question of Mindahi.
Hi. Thank you so much. So much of what you said resonated, and I felt deeply. Some of what you were talking about reminded me of some of the Buddhist beliefs. The Thich Nhat Hanh also taught about being one with the sun, and whoever plants the seed. And I also loved your ritual. I will do things like thank my house. I will put my hand next to the wall and thank my house for taking care of me. Yes, but I have this equally strong belief that I am a spiritual being living in this physical body, and that sometimes the physical lineage holds my spiritual growth back. And I have a dissonance with that. If I'm a spiritual being living in a physical body that could conceivably have lived in a physical body in another country, in another continent, in another planet, how do I resolve this conflict of being one with everything physically in this world, but also spiritually with everything?
Yeah. I've seen people that even move from one place to another so they can find themselves. But it's also the beauty of where you are, why you are there. And that what you call this dissonance is an opportunity. It's an opportunity because you are there for a reason. It's for us to find that answer. And to find that answer, we need to recall, we need the guidance of our ancestors. So that's how we can approach to an answer. Sometimes it's not clear, but it's so important that we understand that we have tests all the time. Not because I was born in a community, in an original nations and people's community, my life is solved. Here, the thing is that we need to go from the me to the we. Because it's not just about myself, it's about why we are here. And when we go from the me to the we could find answers. And I have seen how people become in service of life, the care of life, and accept that test in such a beautiful way that they can interact and they can become one in the diversity.
Thank you so much, Judith. That was beautiful. I did see one other question. Janet had her hand up, but then it went back down. Janet, if you want to put your hand back up, we'd be happy to hear your question. While we're bringing Janet on, I wanted to mention one thing. It seems that in some ways, tuning in and being aware to everything in our presence can encompass everything. And today I had a chuckle because I realize, in our home, sometimes we have these little gadgets that are connected to the internet, and you can talk with them like Alexa. What is the weather today? And I even find myself, even though there's probably no person on the other end, it's a being in a sense that somebody did that, and so I find myself saying thank you. It's like, well, you turn the music off, thank you. But it's a way of life, I think. Just anytime there's an interaction with anything anywhere, we're sensitive that there could be a connection there, and we strive to be present to that. And so often it's something that we realize it's a way of life more than just individuals' acts. Janet, if you would click on come on as a panelist, we'd like to hear your question, and turn on your video and unmute. There you are. Wonderful.
So mostly, I just am so grateful for what you said. It was very calming to be invited to step out of my Western perspective of separation and to spend this time thinking about being part of instead of apart from. Just very calming, very nourishing. And it's such a different energy from most of what we get these days when people talk about climate change, which is so much about fear. And I know that there are many positive steps that are happening because I seek out the news sources that highlight them. But from your deep knowing about our connectedness and our purpose for being where we are when we are, would you speak about that in terms of climate change, the fear around it?
Yeah. Yes. You know that climate change is a way of is a result how we have misbehaved with this beautiful being that we call Mother Earth and Father Sky. And we need to take responsibilities. We need to go to the origins. What is being produced? What is producing this inconsistency of life? And if we go to the origins, just say, as we have been saying during these days, we must treat the sacred elements as sacred. The water is not a resource. Water is a sacred element. And if we put that in public policy, not just at the United Nations level, but in a local level, if we treat this being as sacred, and the other elements of life, then we can change that narrative. Because we are all interrelated. It's not just that the war is happening there. That's the reflection of who we are as human beings. That's the failure as human beings, as a species. It's not just others are doing this or this other. We all need to understand that we are connected and interconnected. So climate change is not just a material sickness. It's a spiritual sickness. Because greed is not just material, it's a mental and spiritual sickness as well. If we begin with ourselves, with our families, to recover dignity, we can recall collective dignity. We can recover that collective dignity. Then climate change and other crises could dissipate little by little. Because we are here in this world. We are responsible for that. Most of any species in this world, we are the ones who are producing this imbalance. So we need to recall and remember that we are here for a purpose. And we believe that the mission of the presence of human beings in this world is the care of life. If you or organization or company or the nation state is not doing that, we need to come back. Remember, come back home. This is our home. This is our family. This is our Mother Earth. This is our Father Sky. Kamade.
Thank you, Janet, for that great question. We have one or two questions on our Q&A, and one from Damien asked this question. is it also important to be aware of our galactic families and ancestors as well as just our earthly ones? What are your thoughts about that?
Well, you know, we are the expression of life in this planet, but there are millions and billions and trillions of expressions of life. Some of us, we have had some experiences. And just because the rational mindset, sometimes we don't share, because we say, oh, they are going to think that I'm crazy or I'm out of mind. But of course, we are not the only ones. You know, it's endless. The universe and the multiverse is endless dimensions. And we know it because we have the support of other species for us to understand that connection. And the ones who have had those experiences, we know that we are not alone. We have been never alone. Even, you know, I have explained about ancestors, and there are other ancestors, even more complex, that we cannot even explain in a rational way. But it's enough to feel and to connect in other ways beyond rationality. Rationality sometimes is a burden. Rationality sometimes is a way of not expanding our consciousness in a more wider way.
Thank you so much, Damien, for that question. We're going to ask Patricia to come back on now. And Patricia, I would say this has been so wonderful. Do you have any last question you might want to ask Mindahi? He's been so generous with his time, and we want to respect that. But anything else you might ask Patricia before we begin to wrap it up?
I don't have another question. I mean, I just feel very full and very grateful. And when you talk to Mindahi about the limitations of the rational mind, I feel like what you have shared has just gone straight into my heart. It's just, you know, just the thinking mind just has been relaxing, chilling out. And mostly I just want to express my appreciation for your presence. As Janet said, it's so calming, and the depth of your wisdom. So my closing statement is one of gratitude.
Hamadi.
Thank you, Patricia. And I think we all share that. I wanted to ask us before we go that what are the, say, projects you're most immediately working on, Mindahi? Obviously, I know you're taking time off with the passing of your mother, but I know you'd been involved in the climate change conference. So what might be the things that you're focused on now?
Yes, we are working on strengthening the spiritual authority of original nations and peoples. In other words, we are rebuilding the ancestral councils. We have organized 2-3 years ago the Grand Council of the Eagle and the Condor, based in the prophecy of the eagle and the condor of this continent. But it's expanding with the other prophecies of, like the white lion, the prophecy of the new dawn, the prophecy of the white buffalo, or the prophecy of the rainbow. Well, talking about the prophecy of the eagle and the condor, it was born in this continent, but it's not just from this continent. It's from the north to the south and the south to the north and in between. People coming together because we are in a very specific and beautiful time and space now. We are in a cleansing time. May 3rd, 2013 ended the big account of the Otomi-Toltec and Mayan calendar. And we have 13 years for this, let's say, remembering of cleansing. So May 3rd, 2026, we are going to begin another cycle. And it's coming together with a new dawn.
Wow.
And it's beautiful because we have the chance as human beings in this world to reconnect, to remember. And we are settling down these councils. Now we have the council of 13, these 7 staffs, plus 6 from other continents. Before 2026, we must achieve the Grand Council of 52, because 52 is the, let's say, in ancestral ways of thinking, is the cycle of the reflection of Venus, the precession of Venus, 52,000 years.
Mm.
And that's why we honor that number. And there are 52 bioregions in the world that we need to match with the representation of those wisdom keepers. So that's number 1. Number 2, we are doing the sacred site work around the world, visiting all the most important sacred sites in the world, the major ones, the continental ones. And we have the capacity to carry out at least 52, and the lane lines, you know, the grid lines, to reconnect them. We have that mandate. And the third one is the establishment of the houses of original thought, original thinking, which means bringing together elders and children and youth, and not just from one peoples, but anyone can come and learn to reconnect with the fire, because the fire is at the center. So it's the bonding or the binding, the spiritual connection. And at least we have already 5 houses of original thought. We need to at least to have 13, and later on 52. And we would like to have every community, every neighborhood, a house of original thought. You can name it as you want, but it's just come together. It's like all the school, very old school coming together. And the fourth one is the intercultural dialogue, intercultural exchange. And that's the presence of us in the international, regional, or national arena to raise awareness and to bring ancestral wisdom with governments, with corporations, with anyone who wants to listen. So that's the number 4. And the number 5, 5th, is to the protection and regeneration of bioregions, or the territories, protection of territories, biocultural heritage protection. That's why we are working around this.
That is so exciting. Do you have any a website or two that you could recommend for those who would like to follow some of these projects? I don't know if you have your own website, or I know you're you know, on and work with quite a number of different ones. I didn't know if there was 1 or 2 you might recommend for people who want to follow and keep up on some of these things.
Yes, we are building the web page, but it's advancing.
Okay.
It's the Earth Elders, theearthelders.org.
Okay. The Earth Elders, ELDERS.
Yes.
.org. Okay. The earthelders.org. We'll make a note of that. Are there any others, or is that the main one at this point?
That's the main one. There
Okay.
are others, but that's the main one.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I want to thank all of you who have been here today and have had questions and dialogues, and just for being present. We can feel your presence. So I want to say, have a wonderful week ahead, And until we meet again, we want to especially thank Mindahi for his time and presence with us, as well as Patricia. And so have a wonderful holiday season. And until we meet again, we'll ask you to be well, take care, and remember you are perfect just exactly as you are. Thank you. Namaste.
Come on.